So, you know, when we started the FII, Mr. President, His Royal Highness the Crown Prince told us this should be the place where people need to understand where they should invest in terms of geographies and in terms of sectors. So I hope you understand why you should go to Rwanda. But let me ask you a question, Mr. President. What is your secret? Because this amazing transformation is really a success story. So please, can you share with us what is your, I would say, yes, your recipe to make Rwanda an amazing startup nation so successful?
Well, maybe a recipe, but not a secret. I don't think it's a secret and a magic. It's just doing what you believe in and that can work, and doing it. There are many cases where people have beliefs and want to do things, but they hesitate, they have no confidence, or they get diverted to other things. So, as far as I understand, it's not a secret, it's just being decided. And for us, the tragic history has also helped us. We had to make a decision whether we disappear from the face of this earth because of our tragedy, or to come out doing the best we can for ourselves and moving on like maybe it has happened, and with some progress.
And what strategies helped achieve all these results? Because we saw an amazing track record. You are first in so many categories, or in top 5, not only in Africa, but in the world. One of the most connected countries. Very early stage, you were really leading this connectivity, this digital transformation. We are talking now a lot in this part of the world of digital transformation, but I know I saw that with my eyes when I was in Rwanda since already 15 years ago. What were the key strategies?
One was to, first of all, rally the whole country to a certain belief that we can survive what happened to us, that took away 1 million lives and more, and displaced even more millions. And we can only survive by being together, working together, and also choosing those things that have a huge impact in creating the difference, from unity to economic policy that would improve the country, investment in our people so that they develop skills, they have knowledge, then create a secure environment in which then we should be able to do what best we can. Of course, with an environment of accountability and accountability that ensures that everything we do is aimed at achieving a certain goal, and we don't allow diversions of different kinds that would eat away what we invest in.
In a few months in this room, the Kingdom will host a great conference on human capital. It's called the Human Capital Initiative. And you are one of the very few leaders who understood at a very early stage how important it is to invest in human capital. Education, healthcare have been 2 key pillars of your development. So how does investing in human capital contribute to the country's vision for economic growth and innovation?
Human capital investment or development, for that matter, is almost everything, because everything we're talking about is done by people. And how well and how knowledgeable they are in their different tasks is going to contribute a great deal. So it's almost everything. Without this investment focused on human capital development, you probably would not go very far, because you need or these people you're investing in to be playing different roles in different sectors. So it is key. There's no question about it.
But let me stay on this topic. Before it was a trend, forgive me, ladies, to mention that because it came as a trend, you were again a pioneer on empowering women. I know so many of our sisters, following the conversation that Cecilia had with Salwa a few minutes ago, all your entourage, you had great leaders. My sister Louise, who was your Minister of Foreign Affairs for years, Her Excellency Paula, Minister of Digital Transformation. So how did you realize that women could definitely be great leaders and you were empowering them at a very early stage?
Well, I think it is a simple logic as far as we are concerned. Maybe with a background where one is not spoiled, you tend to apply the logic very simply. 52% of our population is women. So you can imagine what would happen in one's country if we exclude the 52%. I mean, you're just doing harm to yourself. The second is women have rights too. They're just human beings like all of us. In fact, we are lucky we are born to women, all of us. It is a woman in everyone's life. There's no question about it. So how can you, at a certain point, forget the existence of the very people who bring us to existence? And for us, part of our history with the struggle, in fact, women did participate directly in the struggle to be able to achieve back our country, which we had lost for many decades. Some of us were refugees for so many years outside of our country. So based on that basic fact, you know that women are very important, and therefore not only investing in them, but giving them space to participate and do the things they can do with the rest of us, with the men, then it's the country to gain, it's everybody to gain. So that is our thinking, and it has proven us right. I think wherever they have tried it, it has been proven right as well.
Mr. President, we have many investors in the room. This is the DNA of this conference. And each time I'm trying to promote the continent where I was born, like you, we see a lot of skepticism about Africa. People are scared about the, I would say, lack of stability. They are very hesitant. They see this domino effect of coup in Central Africa, in West Africa. What would you answer to these investors who are questioning, should I or not invest in Africa?
It's a big mistake not to invest in Africa. There's no question about it. Africa now, that is about 1.4 billion people with incredible amounts of natural resources and many other resources. But people themselves, 1.4 billion people, are not, do not be wise to ignore them. You ignore them at your own peril because they can create problems not only in Africa but elsewhere, as we, to an extent, have come to know. But first of all, Africa is not one country.
54.
55, actually, now.
Oh, okay, you're right.
So it's not one country. There are many countries. Maybe they may have problems, but where don't you find problems? I'm sure every investor you will be talking to comes from a country that has one problem or another. So they must be conversant with this situation. But that's not the point I want to make. The point I want to make is we should first of all understand what the problems are and not exaggerate, and also understand that Africans and their leaders want to do their best to address these problems that have kept us all behind the rest of the world. When we talk about coups d'etats are a very bad thing. There's no question about it. But people need to go beyond just hearing coup d'etats and look at what is the possible origin of these coups. And coups also presupposes that these are just military people taking over power from constitutional or civilian governments. But you have to understand also that there are some very bad civilian governments too. So that's one thing leads to another, and therefore in analyzing that, you want to see what is the cause. What is the cause of this bad thing that has happened? And then fix that. So when you look at governance generally, you want to look at which place that is able to look at or look after its own people, make the very investments we are talking about so that people and countries can thrive. And for the time being, not even bothered so much where this is originating from, because if bad governance is done by bad leaders who are civilians, still it is bad governance and it will cause problems anyway. And this bad governance and coups are not confined to Africa. In fact, they have association with the interaction of the rest of the world, particularly those countries that, as of origin, as we know, who were either the colonizers of this Africa. So first of all, was colonization a good thing? But it happened. And even after colonial times, actually the sort of relationship between those who were colonized with the colonizers stayed in a different form and stayed affecting the people of the continent. One example is the incredible amount of control those people still exercise in the continent. You find those coups or bad governance happening on the watch of the very people who colonize those countries and still working with them as if nothing is happening. When things go wrong, of course, you are right to blame the Africans. I think for me, I would blame them for having allowed it in the first place. Having allowed that people from outside should come to any country, to Africa, and start telling people what to do, what not to do, and when things go wrong, they just jump the ship and start blaming the very people they told to do what they did and later on backfired.
I remember, Mr. President, the first time I landed in Kigali years ago, I was extremely positively surprised. I remember I was there with my wife and we were coming to the city. From the airport to the city, big billboards, not promoting any brand. If you remember this amazing campaign, which was investment, yes, corruption, no. Mm-hmm. How can we eradicate corruption, Mr. President?
It doesn't happen just by going to church and praying or to mosque. No, it happens because you don't want it and you do things that will stop it, and that is everybody, including leaders.
Of course.
must be held accountable.
If I want to invest in Africa, and particularly in Rwanda, in your region, what should be the top 3 sectors today?
We have tried to invest, first of all, in people. Anything that empowers people and allows people to raise themselves to a high level, that's what we start with. The second, and we know that involves health, education, their health and their education, and therefore knowledge, that's one. Number 2, we have of late, in fact, you are saying of billboards saying this or that. Now billboards actually advertise things because we are allowing business, investments. So now we have, that was then when you are there, that shows how you were in Rwanda a long time ago. If you came back, things have changed, and I want to see you there. So we therefore want investments to come in different sectors. One, we want for ourselves food security. We want to make sure that happens. 2, we encourage people to come in real estate, in infrastructure generally, and we invest in technology as much as we can.
The theme of this year's edition is a new compass. So, Mr. President, what is your direction for the coming years, and what influences it?
My compass still keeps me and starts with Africa and then goes out to meet the rest of the world. And hoping the rest of the world also comes to meet us. That is how the compass is working. And therefore we hope that more Africans can work together and make the same investments in ourselves as we have learned about the rest of the world that has benefited them. But since it's also about cooperation, about working with each other, I want Rwanda, I want Africa to be able to work with the rest of the world, to benefit each other in the best way possible based on our choices that we make as to how we can move forward. But we have to build on our young people. It's a continent that has the biggest percentage of young people in the world. You find 30 below 30 years and below, about 70%. Rwanda, it's about that in actual fact. So the young people have to be invested in the right way and have to develop and work for the development of our countries. I think if we move in this direction, most of the other problems become easier to overcome.
Allow me, Mr. President, to conclude our conversation by asking you a personal question. I think the world is facing lack of leadership. It is my personal opinion. We are in a kingdom where we have an amazing leaders. You are a great leader. What should we do, or what, when you wake up in the morning, what do you think about to continue your leadership? What is needed to be a leader?
Well, first of all, I'm very glad, Attias, to be here, and I thank the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia.
Our honor, Mr. President.
To have enabled this to happen, for me to be here, and we appreciate what this great country is doing for itself and then for the rest of the partners that can be. And then that happens and productively because of leadership indeed. There's no question about it. But leaders, it's a hard question. I can't specifically say this or that, but leaders also arise out of the choices they make and about how they bring in people they lead to be their own leaders and together bring up the country that they belong to, or any society, if you will. And that comes not only confined to specific areas, but it also happens by cross cooperation. One country having a good leader, working with another country having a good leader that thinks that makes sense. But leadership is about doing what makes sense to the leader, but more importantly, to the people we lead. So if we keep fixed on that and not just telling stories that don't amount to anything, I think we should be more practical, more pragmatic, and focused on performance and results and how we benefit people than anything else, in my opinion. I think that's what we have tried to do in different ways. And you can see it in the results. In the end, the results prove it. It's not that there is a good leader, but then, unfortunately, things don't happen, and so on. So maybe something else needs to be done or looked at. So being a good leader isn't very easy to define, but it's about what you do and with the people and the results, and you are able to see a significant way forward.
Mr. President, thank you very much for being with us. Thank you for your time. And thank you as an African for making us very proud of what you are achieving in Rwanda. Thank you, Mr. President.
Much appreciated.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.